Welcome to the inaugural episode of Dad the Influencer, a podcast about travel technology and innovation that is broad enough to encompass history, religion, politics, and the arts. Today I'm speaking to my wife and best friend, Roberta Beattie, who is a product manager with the All-In Access scheme developed by Arts Council England in cooperation with the Arts Councils of Wales, Northern Ireland, and Ireland, and by Creative Scotland. Welcome to the podcast, Roberta. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Excited to be having a little chat.
Excellent, excellent. Before we talk about the product, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you came to work on accessibility and access schemes for venues?
Oh, well, that's a long story, but I'll try and keep it brief. I started out by teaching myself web design and HTML in the late 90s because my brother-in-law needed a website. And I think it was around the same time WCAG was formed as well, actually. And that was the beginning.
CAG is
Sorry?
Disability Access Standards?
Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Yeah, and then that was like the beginning of my lifelong passion for coding, tech, and innovation, and all that good stuff. I worked for loads of different agencies. I formed my own company with you for 15 years, and that's where we built a content management system in the days before WordPress, so people could get control of their own content. And then when our kids grew up, we both wanted to get back to the traditional workspace, let's say. So that's pretty much when I landed my first job with the Arts Council as a website tech champion. And then after that, a digital accessibility tech champion. And that's where I consulted over about 1,000 organizations and individuals on how to make their content perform well and be accessible. And the opportunity to work for All-In as a product manager came about from the back of that, really.
Cool. And when we say get back to traditional workplaces, what we really mean is we wanted to stop chasing people for outstanding invoices. But that's for a different story. That's a different podcast altogether. Question. When people hear accessibility, they often think above ramps or lifts. What problem is your access scheme actually trying to solve?
Well, we want to make it easier for disabled people to experience creativity and culture, essentially. At the moment, it's pretty tricky to know what provisions are in place, so it's hard to know if something's suitable for someone. And give them the confidence to know it's okay for them to go along to see and experience something.
And this, this can be like a theater, art gallery.
A museum, art gallery, that kind of thing. So really, it's just trying to make that whole process a lot more harmonized, and so people know that the right information is there to help them make those right decisions. It's also really time consuming to book because organizations often ask for proof of eligibility to use these access provisions or to get a companion seat ticket, that kind of thing. So this can be quite dehumanizing to have to show ID and paperwork and all that kind of thing. So we're trying to solve.
I was going to say, blue badges are just for parking, aren't they? Like you don't have a blue badge necessarily for everything. So it's not standard, is it?
It's not standard. And there's various different ways you need to prove eligibility for different things. For example, it might be that it's law that you're allowed to take a guide dog or a companion animal into with you.
Yeah.
But venues might need to have that extra reassurance. It's a working dog. You've got insurance for it. It might be that in order to, a lot of venues have to kind of justify their incomes and anything that they're giving away for free. So oftentimes you'll be eligible for a free companion seat to bring someone along with you. And it's just making sure that that some due diligence has taken place, maybe some paperwork to show that you're on PIP or something similar to that. So yeah, the kind of types of ID can be wide and varied and inconsistent as well, actually.
Okay.
So it's just a real pain for people, and it's dehumanizing. Box office staff aren't trained for this kind of thing properly. It's basically turning box office staff into benefits officers. So it's just a tricky situation from both sides of the coin.
So you're
And
so you're trying to solve that for people with disabilities, but also for the venues. So
that's it, yeah. So they don't have to go through that whole checking process of paperwork and that type of thing. It's
okay,
enough for them to be part of the scheme and accept that we'll kind of take people through that process, and they only have to do it once.
cool.
So yeah, we're just trying to solve both those problems. A platform will let disabled people create an access profile and collect proof if someone chooses to do that. Because you don't have to provide proof if you don't want to on All In either. And we're getting organisations to state whether they require proof and that type of thing as well, so people can make the decision at the point of booking if they want to go through that process on All In of providing the proof. Organisations can sign up and read the standards that we've written for the sector and also create location profiles to list their accessible events as well, and the accessibility of their venues. So, with the standards, this should go a long way to help organisations understand how to build consistent access provisions and communicate them well to the people that need to use them.
Okay. Oh, that is quite interesting, actually. And I've never really thought of it from the organizational's point of view. And that actually segues nicely into my next question, which is how does the lack of clear access information affect how people choose whether to go to a gallery, a theater, event? Because this can be anything. This could be a sports event as well. It
Oh,
doesn't have to be arts, does it?
actually, at the moment, it's just the arts and
Just the arts.
creativity and
Okay.
yeah, creativity and culture sector. You know, it could lend itself well to the to other sectors easily.
Okay.
Um,
Sure.
and I reckon, so it can be really scary to take that leap of faith and go out on a whim if you need certain things in place when you visit somewhere. Even something as simple as a quiet space, so, you know, to take if you need to take some time out, if it's a busy environment, or you might feel overwhelmed, if it's a really quite a sensory experience where you're going, it's nice to know that there's a quiet space that you can go to if you need it. Another example could be that your mechanical wheelchair might be too heavy for the lifts or something along those lines. So it's really important for people to know what what those kind of things are before they go there. Yeah, and it's kind of it's just putting things in place that help people understand what it is they're going to be embracing when they come to your venue. So things like visual stories can be really useful, and they're a set of pictures that show the layout of the venue with an explanation alongside it. So
So where you would park, how you would get to the box office,
that's it, where the
how you
toilets
get
are,
in, where the toilets are. Yeah.
where the cafe is, what the counter levels are, all those sorts of things that can really help take that stress out of and that fear out of going somewhere unknown.
Okay. And is there barriers that basically that would be invisible, possibly to designers, possibly to people who are visiting but don't have any specific barrier? I suppose we talked a bit about
Counter height,
counter
yeah.
heights is one thing, and I guess, yeah, I mean, probably like most people, I tend to think a wheelchair is a wheelchair is a wheelchair, but I know through you that it really isn't, that there are quite a few different types of wheelchairs for different types of mobility issues. Is there anything else that you can think of as well?
I think it's going to be things like if there's going to be flashing lights or loud noises or bangs, or those can be kind of intimidating for some people. If there's lots of people at the venue, that can be an overwhelming experience.
Okay.
Some people prefer relaxed performances, for example, as well, where if they're coming with somebody who's quite excitable and make lots of noise, it's not going to put everyone else in the audience off. Um, yeah,
Okay,
it's just about
so it's
yeah,
basically everything. It's everything.
it's
Can
everything.
potentially
Yeah.
anything that you can think of for someone may end up being a barrier.
And often a barrier for someone is an access provision for another. So it's really important that,
Mhm.
you know, you put on a you make a wide variety of choices available,
Okay.
and performances of different styles, like sensory performances, for example. Some people might like full on, high heartbeat kind of flashing lights and loud bangs. Someone else might not get jive with those things. They're both different types of sensory performances, where one is like full on and one is kind of muted and calmer and less effects in it. I even know somebody who's developing an app that will alert you when the next loud bang will be. sort of like a minute
Cool.
before it happens in the performance. Yeah. Or, just gives you a heads up for what's coming.
So it
So
doesn't
there's
catch
lots.
you unawares if you're
That's
sensitive
it.
to that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Excellent.
there's lots of different things that are people are, and really great innovations that people are thinking of to help people overcome these barriers.
Think systems like yours can help organizations build empathy at scale, or does that still require cultural change?
I'm not sure empathy is quite the right framing here because we built our platform around the social model of disability. And what that means is society and environment should be built to be appropriate for the people who need to use it. So this means that we never have to speak about medical problems. We're just making sure things are built to make them usable by everyone. So I definitely think All In is going to provide the evidence we need to tell those stories to help us build better public services so that everyone can enjoy using them
Oh,
essentially.
cool. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I suppose related to that, what does good access information do to somebody's dignity or mental energy before they arrive at a venue?
It means that they can make an active choice without having to get in touch and ask those questions, which is a complete palaver. And it means instead about filling out loads of forms and providing evidence every time they want to go somewhere and enjoy something, they only have to do it once. It means that they don't have to spend hours researching an event. They're thinking less about that and thinking about more it is what they want to see creatively or what they want to experience culturally. So it's opening out the world to them in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think about because all their energy isn't being spent on admin or anxiety.
Okay. So if you're going to explain the access scheme to someone in 30 seconds, what does it do and who is it for? What would that explanation be?
Yeah, All In makes it easier for disabled people to access creativity and culture by creating a personal access profile for organizations so that they can communicate what they need to be in place. And for the organizations to access the standards to provide access provisions more um, consistently. And it's also going to be the world's biggest search engine for accessible events. And I love saying that because people,
That's big.
yeah,
It's getting new markets, getting new people who might not otherwise come
yeah,
to experience whatever cultural event you're offering. That's really cool. Um, and how do you design? So you have the
yeah.
system, but how do you design the system so it doesn't tell people what they can and can't do, but instead gives them enough information so that they can decide for themselves whether or not it's appropriate, or whether or not it's something they would want to engage with.
Yeah, I was going to say, we aren't here to tell people what they can and can't do, essentially. We're here to encourage organizations to communicate what they can and can't do in a harmonized way. So making that information consistent. And this gives people who want to visit information they need to make an informed choice about whether it or not it's suitable for them. So when we were conceiving this project, we spoke to a lot of people from all walks of life with a wide variety of lived experience. And soon we realized that there was a lot of confusion on both sides of the fence. So basically, organizations were wanting to provide excellent access provisions, and we're already doing some of that in a really great way. But they were just unsure about if they were doing it right, or they lacked confidence about how they were going to make it better in an ongoing kind of way. And also, disabled people were struggling to find the information they needed to be confident to make the decision to go and visit a venue or go to an event in case they got caught stranded or in a compromising situation. So that's why we built the platform in the way that we did, just so that we could provide what both sides of that coin needed. You can't just solve one side of a problem like this. You have to think about it as a whole.
Okay. And how do the venues react when you ask them to describe their access honestly? Especially when it isn't perfect, because as you said,
Yeah,
everyone has different needs, and I know nobody wants to be seen as the venue that doesn't let people in for some reason. Everyone wants to be inclusive as they can be, and to appeal to a wide as many people, as well as potential Disability Act ramifications as well. So how in your
and
experience so
legislation.
far,
Yeah.
yeah, how do the venues react when you ask them?
I mean, it's often a conversation that starts out with overwhelm and lack of clarity or frustrations that things aren't perfect. But when you explain that at the core of everything, providing access isn't a set and forget exercise, I think that kind of calms their nerves a bit because nothing's ever going to be 100% perfect. You can never say something's fully accessible, for example. Every day it provides us with an opportunity to learn how to do things a little bit better and improve on things. And also, you just can't get everything right in one go. It takes practice, it takes iteration, it takes a long time to build on things. And so hopefully what we're hoping to do is that All In will be able to give them the data they need to apply for funding, to get things set up well, that it'll provide them with means and pathways to educate their staff. It'll provide data to kind of converse with local governments and that type of thing, and then bring the whole sector up, and we can all improve together and learn from each other about what provisions need to be in place over the years. Um, I don't know about you, but I'm always learning new things about access. I think it's just such a massive subject. And I think it's one of the things I love about it. It's just learning how to see the world from different viewpoints and different
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning something every day as well, mostly through you. And you do have that. What was the line? Is it
Progress
progress
over perfection.
progress over
Yeah.
perfection? That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea, and this is something that comes up very much across all of
Yeah.
the travel industry because I mean, we've had this discussion. In fact, we had a discussion for people involved in the airline industry might be interested to know. I was explaining to Bert in the early days of this project about how SSR codes work as part of the PADIS codes for an airport, so that you can basically see what is now framed as access provisions, and that sort of concept made its way, I think, into some of this. In return, I'm hoping that some of this that people in the airline industry will also hear about this, because I remember there's one story that kind of goes around the airline industry, and that is in certain markets, especially in airports, that might be a bit more chaotic in the way that you sort of go through it, the way that the AODB says what gates are going, and they change a lot. And what some people
Mm.
are doing is finding they'll ask for wheelchairs, especially for like parents that may not have specific mobility issues, but it's more they need someone to handhold them all the way through in order for them to be able to get to the gate on time, sort of comfortably. But the only way they know to do that is to ask for a wheelchair. And that
Yeah.
maybe
There's
if
so
you,
much more we
yeah,
can
if you
do,
if you provide better services, if
like
the
access
airports,
guides.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, it could make a
Access
yeah, it could make a
buddies.
really big difference. And I mean, people don't always think of going to a theater or a gallery as travel, but it is. And, I mean, as you and I know from various experiences, as well as from your job, that going to a theater or gallery can actually be a significant
Mm.
bit of travel. I mean, I have a friend who lost a leg not so long ago, and they were talking about the sheer logistics that are involved in trying to get somebody with a wheelchair, with a prosthetic leg, that they're still learning
Yeah.
to go on. It's just difficult. It's a production. So what I'm wondering is, how does accessibility information change the way people move through cultural spaces, but also sort of cities and everywhere?
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that you're talking about the IATA standards, and I did learn a lot from you through that. And I've just found it really impressive, all the accessibility codes they've got. They've gone into a huge amount of depth with them, and I think that's mainly because there's no escaping it with airlines. You have to have those contingencies in place. And so that was really inspirational, I think. And I think this is what I wanted to achieve for the creativity and culture sector as well, and give people something that was really focused to that sector. And I think this is one of the reasons uh, that creating them for England wasn't going to be enough either. What if someone wants to go and see something in one of the other nations? It made such a lot of sense to build something that was going to be giving people confidence to know that the language used to describe a provision in England was going to be the same in Wales, for example. So a lot of people, disabled people, take a massive leap of faith when they travel, hoping things will be in place for them that they need to be there. And I think they spend a massive amount of time researching and asking questions. And if something like this was, information like this was easier to find for them, I think it would be transformational across the board, and give them so much more freedom and confidence. I mean, imagine how many more disabled people would be able to enjoy traveling without having to feel frightened and worried and afraid.
And indeed, it's frightening. And for airlines, what people, or for air travel, what people also miss out on is people buy a ticket, get the SSR through an airline, and then sort of discover when problems happen that it's not the airline that's providing the trip from the airport to the aircraft. It's actually the airport that does that. And the communication isn't always as smooth as it should be. And I think this is something, the people are recognizing in the industry and are trying to resolve, but it can be difficult. And there's a lot of, technological there's a lot of technological solutions that can genuinely help. But is there times sometimes where you think the technology can get in the way of accessibility, and maybe it's too much working on technology?
I think technologies like screen readers are like absolutely fantastic. I mean, websites, if they're coded and written well, can be brilliant for screen readers. But on the same hand, if they aren't built with that accessibility in mind and tested for it, then you just can't use a website,
Mhm.
basically. Um, people with screen readers are probably like the best example of that, who
Mm.
use screen readers, sorry. Um,
So,
one of the ways that I was going to say, one of the ways that people navigate a website is
yeah,
through the links on the page. If you're just tabbing through the screen, and every time you're hitting a link, it's saying read more, click this, click here. It just makes no sense. So just putting some context around what
yeah,
the meaning of that link and where it will
what
take
the
you,
links are.
it's transformational.
And
The simple
we've
things.
done this. Bert got access to a screen reader, and it was really interesting to hear how websites are navigated when you don't have visual clues. It's completely wild. And if you ever get a chance to do it, I recommend it, just because it gives you a whole new appreciation for how you can process. Basically how you can process things orally if you need to. Um, so in 5 years, this is my what does success look like? In 5 years,
Yeah,
what would success look like for the access scheme? Not sort of in numbers necessarily. I mean, those are always great as well, but more like in lived
yeah.
experience. What would success be in 5, 10 years from now?
Okay. So I'd love it if more sectors took this approach, just thinking about the details, because I think that would be something that they could take from all in and learn and implement in their own sectors,
Hmm.
and do the same process that we've done.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I hope at the end of the day, um, through the scheme, that there's going to be a lot more people enjoying creativity and culture, and being able to find great events, and really understand what's on offer access wise, so they know what to expect when they get there. And I'm really hoping that organisations are more confident and continue to develop their accessibility strategies and provisions and that type of thing. But yeah, I think, sector to sector, if all the sectors were doing this, we'd grow so much faster
Okay.
and get better.
And if there was one thing you could say to venue managers, to policymakers, to designers who think accessibility is too complicated, what would that be?
Well, in England alone, you're turning your back on a quarter of the population, so that's a big thing. But you're also losing money, and you're missing out on a massive opportunity to do better and make things better for everyone, not just that quarter of the population. By making things accessible, it often has amazing effects on your UX as well. And
Indeed. Yeah.
that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, actually now, yeah. And when you say that, I mean, airline industry talks a lot about experience. It's all about the experience.
Yeah.
Traveling is it is an experience. I mean, there's many different reasons why people travel, but it's always an experience. And we focus a lot on making that user experience as good, as seamless, as pleasant as everything is possible. And if you're removing access barriers for people with disabilities, you're also
Yeah.
removing access barriers for everybody.
Well, that's it. I think
Yeah,
if you think about accessibility and change the word to customer service, you kind of onto a winner
cool.
because you're basically thinking about people and what they need and how to serve them properly.
Yeah. Okay. This is my final question. I promise this time. Is there a question about accessibility you wish people would ask more often, but rarely do?
Well, not so much a question, but probably thinking about accessibility from the start of a project, because it's so much easier than thinking about it as an afterthought. I think it's also really important to start asking people about their opinions and their lived experience. Um, so you can incorporate all those great ideas that they already have and they already know because they're the experts on themselves, to bring them into your thinking around how you're going to develop something.
Cool. Oh, that's been really interesting. Thanks for that. I'm Ben the Influencer, and I've been talking to Roberta Beattie with Arts Council England as part of the All In Access scheme. This is my first ever podcast, and what I'm hoping is going to be a lot more. So do please click subscribe, send me a message, click like, tell me what I did wrong. I would love to hear from you. And thank you very much, Roberta. And I will be down and make you that promised cup of tea in a minute.
Cheers, lovely.